Hello and welcome to episode 73 of
Absolute Game of Nerd!
Yes, the Absolute Game of Nerds. All right, I am your host, Rohan. JP, we actually had to kind of shift schedules a little bit for some things that came up family-wise. So we're recording this late, so it's too late for JP. So it's going to be me flying solo. But with me today, very excited to have Mattis of Mattis Comics. Mattis is a huge TMNT collector. I'm a big fan of TMNT, but he's going to be the first we've had to really talk a lot about TMNT. So I'm excited for this. But Mattis, say hello. How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on, guys? I'm a little nervous. First TMNT fan.
Yeah, you're all good.
Better not get anything wrong.
Well, I mean, we've had TMNT fans, but you are definitely the super, like, no one to your level. So,
I
but
guess
nothing.
so.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get into this. So tell us, what is your origin story? So take us way back. When did the love start? And it doesn't have to be just necessarily Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If there was something before, like Spider-Man or anything like that, by all means, get into that.
So when I was so my dad collected comics, and I was like, I want to say 7, 8, around that age. My dad gave me all of his comics, and in that run of, I want to say, like 250 books, because it was like he collected during the 80s, so it wasn't like a lot of books. He had like every single Paul Smith X-Men. And then when I was little, I got my grubby little hands on it, and I flipped through. I remember one book, it was Hulk. I think it was the Hulk issue where Gray Hulk is fighting like Green Hulk on the cover.
Okay.
There's been a few issues where he's done that, but it was like early 300s ish, and I think I tore the cover off that one. And then that was the end of it. And then jumped to COVID. I bought Dark Knight Returns. Loved every second of it, and I was like, wait a minute.
Just bought it out of like boredom?
Yeah, I bought that, and I bought Watchmen because I'd watched the Watchmen movie. And I was like, you know what? I'll pick it up and I'll read it. And then I remembered my dad had given me a bunch of comics, and so I pull them out, blow the dust off them, and I start going through them. I was like, huh, this is like a really complete run of X-Men, like 168, 18, all the way to 180, all the way to 200, and then I get to like 221, which is first appearance of Mr. Sinister.
Yep.
And then right at the end of that series, it ends at 267.
So
which
right
is
after
the second
Gambit.
appearance of Gambit. And then I flip back, and Gambit's on the cover of one of the books. And my copy of first appearance of Gambit is, it has like this brown stain on the back. I don't want to know how it got there, but I basically I got like a full run of X-Men and then like a few Hulks. And I was like, why don't I start collecting and seeing like what I like? So I started going to the comic shop, and I did the first big mistake, in my opinion. And I bought every single new comic, and I didn't go in the bins. And that was during COVID, when it was kind of like Supreme variant era.
So I feel like we're still in that era.
Yeah, I don't really mess with the variants too much. Not anymore now, but like, I remember getting a Batman issue, and it was like first appearance of Ghost, who's like Bruce Wayne's like longtime friend, and I was like, oh, this book is gonna make me money, because that's what all the content was. So it's like, how much money can you make off of comic books? But I'd say the first run that like I actually put together, like without the help of anybody, because there's 2 runs, but so there's X-Men, and then my uncle had G.I. Joe, which I just bought this.
Oh, nice.
Not that long ago. So I have a complete run of G.I. Joe. Like, X-Men's really expensive, and I don't think I'm going to buy any X-Men books this year, but almost complete run of X-Men. And then my third run was Frank Miller's Daredevil run, where it's like Daredevil versus ninjas.
Yeah.
First run I like put together. And man, I think I spent like $40 an issue on that run, which is absurdly expensive.
Yeah.
And then when we get into Turtles, my first Turtles issue was issue 8.
Wait, so you didn't watch anything Turtles or have any affinity for Turtles growing up?
So my first Turtles movie was the animated one from like 2008, 2007-ish.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I got all the toys from that. But like Turtles wasn't like my
Wasn't a big
go-to
deal.
book. No. But issue 8 of Turtles probably up there is like one of my favorite issues.
Now we're talking
That
about
was
8 from the original run.
yeah, from the Mirage run. Got it for $5. Remember that? And then that's where it kind of started. I got like an issue here and there. Then it was Last Ronin came out, and the amount of Last Ronin number ones I have, I don't want to say how many I have because I'm kind of like I don't want to say I'm speculating, but I have 15 issues of Last Ronin number 1.
Hey, I mean the movie is supposedly in the works, which I would love to see.
And that's where like my craze like really began. So that's my origin story. There's not a lot to it. Batman, and this is what I'm focusing on right now.
Oh, okay. A little Disney
Donald,
action.
Uncle Scrooge, Donald Duck. I mess with those guys a lot. So yeah,
Uh,
that's the
well,
origin.
I want to come back to the Disney, but so then tell me, like, what is it specifically about the Turtles that you love so much? Like, what draws you there?
So with all like if you read a consecutive run of books, you get the same artist, the same writer, and then the same inkers for like 100 or like 75 issues for an example. Turtles, they're like they flip back and forth between like all these different independent artists, and Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird only do the first 14 issues. And it's a 63 issue run, so that's like a whole ton of artists. So I feel like you get a lot of variety with it.
So then your appeal was the draw to the art, not necessarily the story or the characters themselves?
Yeah, there's like a lot of people think that the original Mirage Turtles were really violent. Um, it's borderline kind of violent, but it's like they're coming off of like Frank Miller's Daredevil, so it's like that level of violent. I mean, there's also blood in it and
That's
stuff
what I was
like
to say.
that.
Like, I mean, but there is like actual blood and like,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so yes, it's mainly based off the art. I also really like the history of like how they owned their own property for like until they sold it to Nickelodeon, and then so Peter Laird had control over all of the property for maybe 35 years.
So okay, so talk to me then real quick about that. Like, so I grew up watching Ninja Turtles cartoons and played with the action figures.
Yeah.
Perfectly honest, I didn't actually know, and so I grew up also collecting comics at a young age. But it was like the X-Men, it was Spider-Man. I had no, but at that same time, I was watching Ninja Turtles cartoons along with like the X-Men cartoon, playing with Ninja Turtle action figures and such. I had no idea Ninja Turtles was a comic book, nor did I know that it was started as a comic book. So obviously, then fast forward to 2022 when I got back into the hobby. That is actually when I learned Ninja Turtles started originally as a comic book run. I had no idea. So since then, I've obviously learned a little bit. But if you have a good knowledge of the history, talk to me a little bit about that.
So they wanted to just do the comic, but it was this guy, this salesman, and he wanted to like basically license it out. So they kind of did what Bob Kane did with Batman in the early 30s, and they just licensed the Turtles out. And that's why you get like all of like what are those you know those kung fu manuals where they teach kids to kick their friends in the neck or like beat them with a stick?
I
Those,
actually don't.
have you not seen those? Here, one
Uh,
second. Um they're called like Solson manuals. I have one here. The Michelangelo one.
oh,
And
okay.
what it is, it's comic size, but it's a total bait, and it teaches kids how to like use nunchucks, kick their friends in the neck, and like fight basically. But basically, the cartoon and the toys were license um, license agreements, and they just licensed the turtles out, and that's how those cartoons and the um, comics, like the adventures comics, that's how those came to be.
Now, when I was a kid, though, I also remember. So, obviously, we didn't have things like the MCU or the DCU or anything like that. But at that very young age, the two movies that were well, obviously, the Superman movies were made before I was born, and I definitely watched those, and I loved those as a kid. But in my childhood, both the Batman movie in '89 came out, and the Ninja Turtles movie came out. Both of those movies, I would still say, hold up very well, in my opinion. Especially like I think Turtles, the movie I can't remember the exact year it came out, is still fantastic. I could recite almost that entire movie while watching it. Did you ever? I know you said your first movie was the 2007 8 ish animated. Did you ever go back and watch that movie?
I did. I watched it like a couple times, but like you know how you talk about the Batman movie and the Turtles movie as being like the like pinnacle superhero movies.
Yeah,
Nowadays, because I grew up through the Marvel movies, like seeing them, like I saw Iron Man and I saw um Captain America for like my birthday parties. So
yeah.
like to me, the movies that like really like are like the equivalent of that to me are like Spider-Verse
Hmm.
is like a huge one. Like holy shit, that movie is cool.
Yeah, I mean both. I mean, I think the second one's even better personally.
That, and the third's gonna be even better as well. Endgame, that was cool as well. So like I feel like your time and like my time are like kind of like the equivalent, like where it was like, okay, this is like where it's getting started, and then I got to grow up where it's like this is how it is now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the line. We've talked to a few people where it's like, yeah, I grew up and Iron Man came out when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, that's quite the difference between what. Yeah, but no, but that's awesome. I mean, so then tell me, your when it comes to collecting the turtles now, what is it your goals are?
Um, I would like to have a complete Mirage run. But I when I did my post of like the full like run, I said that I have a no eBay rule.
I like
So
that rule.
the goal for Turtles is mainly to just get the full run, and then I would like to be done with it and like maybe move on to like Superman or Batman or something like that. But Turtles is like I'd like to get a Turtle Mania 1. That would be like the main book on my hunt list this year. And I might break the rule and buy it off of eBay because yeah, I can't find one anywhere.
Yeah, when you say no eBay, does that mean it has to be in person, or will you buy off like Instagram?
I would consider buying off of Instagram. The only thing with Instagram is okay, I don't know how to use PayPal. I think I'm the only person that
You
doesn't
sound bad. You
understand
sound like a boomer. That's
it.
what I'm supposed to say here.
Like PayPal, I put my card on and then I couldn't figure out how to like actually pay with PayPal. So then I was like, oh, I'll just whip out my actual card. So but yeah, I would buy off of Instagram and claim sales because I know that I'd be supporting like actual people who make a living off of this. But my main goal is to like kind of make a day out of it. So like I work, I go to school, so I don't really have a lot of time to hunt comics. And I feel like if I spent all my money on eBay, I'm not really like going out and doing something. So I'll make a full day out of it where I'll go hit a few shops and then like search for turtles,
Wait,
usagi.
remind me again, where do you live?
Edmonton, Alberta.
So do you have a handful of shops available to you?
Oh, I'd say like between Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, and Vancouver, we're all kind of tied for like most amount of shops in the city.
Oh, wow.
So we have I want to say we have 8 comic shops within like 30 minutes driving distance.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so the comic shop close down hasn't really hit here yet, which is good because everybody collect like there's still a huge collecting community here in Alberta. So yeah, we have a lot of shops.
That's awesome. I mean, I mean, if I was to actually break it down, there's probably 8 within a 30 minutes drive. The difference is the of the 8, the majority of those are like more like
New
new
comics.
books. Yeah, like there's
Yeah.
no like bins of vintage stuff or wall books or anything like that. So it's like I don't have really much interest in modern stuff, so there's not much appeal for me to go to those shops. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I had no idea Edmonton was a huge collector community. That's great. Because I always do wonder, like there's a number of friends I've made that are in Canada, and depending on where they're at, there I know oftentimes an issue is that like yeah, people will ship to Canada, but it's like it's more expensive. Like I can
It's
get a
like
book shipped
$40.
exactly right. Like whereas I'm going to pay like $8 shipping, or like shipping will be included if it's in the U.S. Things like that. So I feel for you on that.
Like I would love to buy comics. So I watch West Coast Avengers. I
Yeah.
manage his Discord. I would
Oh, you
love.
manage the Discord? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I made it. Well, he made it, and then I was like, "Here, let me give you a hand with it." And I've made all the
Okay,
channels, the
Mattis, let's be
roles.
honest here. If you could figure out Discord, you should be able to figure out PayPal.
Okay, we're not going to talk about the PayPal. The PayPal is just too difficult. Maybe I'll swap to Zelle or something, and maybe it's easier.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number Zelle, and then a number of them take Venmo too. So
Yeah, Venmo is. I don't think we have. It's one of the two, Venmo or Zelle. We don't have here,
okay,
or it's like doesn't work or something like that.
got it.
But when I go to the West Coast Avengers claim sale and I see all the cool books, and I'm like, oh, I could hit claim on that, and it's like a $10 book, and then it's like, oh, but
Yeah,
I'll have to pay
50 bucks.
shipping, and then I have to pay customs on everything I buy. So it's like $15 for customs, $30 for shipping, and it's like
Yeah,
I
no, I
gotta
mean
buy a lot.
that even plays a factor in I don't let's just say like again, since I'm not going to a lot of shops, like if I saw a book on Instagram and let's just say it was $20, right? But then it's like, let's just say it's with $10 shipping. Now my 20 is like $30. I'm like, do I need to pay $10 shipping for a $20 book? I'll just pass for now. Like, so like that's just even greater the case in your situation when it's 40 or $50 to ship.
And I love Dave. Dave is the GOAT. He makes probably the best videos on YouTube.
Yeah,
And
no, his videos are great.
his videos are so funny. But it's crazy though. I've been ordering stuff from like I ordered a book from Japan, and it's a weekly Shonen Jump. It's cheaper to ship from Japan to Canada than it is to ship from the States to Canada.
That's crazy.
It is the craziest thing. It's going to take like 2 months to get here, but when they say free shipping on eBay, it actually means free shipping to Canada.
That's great for you. We interviewed a guy. His name's Alan, Comic Collector Geek, and he's a big Golden Age collector specifically. But he's in Canada, and I can't remember the name of it. I have to go back and watch that episode to see. But he uses some service that, like, when he orders comics, because most of them are coming from the U.S., they go to this company and they hold on to him. And then when he's got a sizable pile, then they ship it to him. And
Oh, it's Stackery, right?
yeah, Stackery, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He has some of the like when he when I look at his videos sometimes, because he gets some cool books in as well. He's into the Golden Age, and I can't
Yeah.
afford Golden Age, so it's like I'll watch the videos on Golden Age, but then it's like part 14 of my biggest comic unboxing. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, exactly.
let's go to part 1 really quick, and it's like he gets like 5 like huge cardboard boxes of like heritage auction wins, comics that he bought off of claim sales. It is like, holy crap, that's a lot of comics.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's always like really cool when it's like he does like 4 heritage unboxing videos, and it's like a whole ton of like cool golden age like horror
Yeah, it's
comics
cool
and
because it's a
stuff like
lot of
that.
stuff that like I don't have or don't see much. So like it's exposure for me for that kind of stuff too. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. I wish a lot of people like do what Alan does, where it's like they show off the books instead of like, oh yeah, I have this one book, but I don't show it at all because it's super expensive and I don't want anybody to know I have it.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Like I kind of think about that a lot in terms of like, I don't have any 5-figure, let alone 6-figure books, I would say, at least at the moment. And I understand the notion of like I keep these in a safety deposit box at
Yeah.
the bank kind of thing. But for me, I'm like, if that's going to be the case, like I don't like I want to be able to enjoy it, right? Like I want it to
Yeah.
be so like I get it. And that's nothing against the people that are doing that. I just think
No,
like in
no,
my
yeah.
mind, if I'm going to acquire this, and I mean, at the end of the day, too, though, I also though pay for insurance for my collection, right? Before that reason, but it's a happy price I pay for the fact that I can pull the books out and put them up on my desk or something like that to enjoy them. Versus like, oh, I want to go see my X-Men one, I've got to drive to the bank and go look at it, kind of thing.
Exactly. And also like I just like looking at my books as well.
Yeah,
Like that's the thing is I'm not a big CGCer, even though I have a G.I. Joe 1 CG on my desk. I got the newsstand Marvel Age 114. I got a few Batman books graded, but like other than that, it's like I'm more of like a reader of expensive paper, if I were to put it that way. And so like when I buy like a Turtles 1, for example, yeah, I do wanna, like, kinda read it, and I wanna look at it, but, I do get why people use the company and why people are like, "Yeah, I kinda gotta protect this because it's one of 40 in the world," you know? Like, you
I
see
yeah,
some of
and
those golden age
I
books.
not only that, like I do understand too. Like let's just say if you're spending $5,000 on like even a Silver Age
Yeah,
book, it is nice to know that like there's some verification of what you're buying, right, from a third party, right? Like I know there's no restoration because it's been checked. I know this is that, what it is I'm buying versus
yeah,
like, if you by all means, yeah, absolutely like and Dave from West Coast would be a perfectly good example. Like if Dave sold me a big Silver Age book that was raw, I would trust what he said. But you can't say that about everyone.
yeah,
Um,
that's definitely important.
yeah,
Like,
but
you
I'm the
have to
same.
have some sort of security
Yeah, and
because
I
at the end of the day, you're spending thousands on a book, and it's like, "Oh, it's missing 5 pages." Well, that's like a big price difference, you know?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And I mean, yeah, but I'm with you too. Like personally, like I'm not actually sending any books to grade at CGC. Like in my mind, if I was to buy something big enough, like I kind of think like my threshold would be, in the hand, few $1,000s, like a
Yeah.
book. Like I'd say probably like $3,000 would be my threshold to be like, okay, I'm gonna pay to get this graded. Um, but when I think about that, like if I'm buying a book of that magnitude, I'm more than likely going to buy it graded for those exact reasons we just said. And so when I think about the raw books that I'm buying, like at least at now, I have no intention of grading any of them. So I'm with you on that. Not that
No,
I'm not a reader though. I mean, I'm just literally a collector. Like I read a lot of these when I was a kid, and now I'm just more about the collection side of it. So
oh man, the there's a always like a I've noticed that there's a little bit of a debate between, oh, you don't read the comics, so therefore you shouldn't have them. But I'm like, dude, you can watch the X-Men movies and like have your mind blown, and it's like, oh, they were in a comic before, I better own that. So
yeah,
like,
I
I
mean,
think it's all of like there's too much. I think there's a lot of beef when it comes to the readers versus just collectors.
oh, no doubt. I mean, people are going to have opinions for sure. But again, everyone can collect. I mean, I know multiple people, and even I have a lot of, will chase a lot of books um, just purely for the fact that the cover is awesome. For example, a big book that I want to chase down this year is House of Secrets 92. I've made that very clear. And
Or
I've also made
Swamp
it,
Thing.
yeah, and I've made it also very clear that like I've never been a Swamp Thing fan. But that cover is just an all-timer. Like it's just
It,
so good
oh, I
that
agree.
I want it. And I mean, I can acknowledge that Swamp Thing is a huge character, and so his first appearance is obviously a big book. But I mean, if I was to admit, right, the number one reason I want that book is solely for that cover because it is. I mean, it's probably a top 5 cover for me. It is phenomenal.
And you're
So
not alone on the Swamp Thing, uh, like knowledge. So I have. It's funny. I do have a Swamp Thing book graded. It reprints the first Swamp Thing. I don't know if you can see it.
okay, yeah, I can see it now. Yep.
Bernie Wrightson cover. I can't name you a single character outside of Swamp Thing in his like entire comic run. I only know who Swamp Thing is, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because exactly, 100%. And again, there are multiple people. I mean, we were just talking about Golden Age. I mean, multiple Golden Age collectors will tell you, like, if you're a pre-code horror guy or something like that, like the stories in a lot of those books is nothing to write home about. You're purely buying those for the cover
Oh
art,
yeah,
right? Same with those, like the Good Girl covers, again, the PCH covers, and like a lot of those just classic, like Startling 49. Like multiple people have said Startling 49, while it's considered Alex Schomburg's greatest cover, one of the greatest airbrush covers, I've never heard one person say one good thing about the story inside of Startling 49.
is that the one with the Bender from
Yep.
Futurama on the cover?
That's the
Oh, okay,
Bender where the inspiration from Bender came from. Yeah, it's an awesome. Definitely one like once I'm done kind of doing some Marvel hunting, which is, years down the line.
yeah.
It's definitely one I would put on the list for like a Golden Age book I would like to track down because that cover is sick.
So what are some of the Marvel books you want to get?
Oh, me personally, I mean, so I've kind of wrapped up my kind of bronze. So first off, right, as a lot of people know, I'm a big first appearance collector. Like the bigger the first appearance, the more I'm into it. And I actually would say like I was pretty happy with where my Bronze Age collection was. And then I actually just picked up a first Moon Knight because I just ended up having to find it for a
Nice.
really great price recently. So I added that and I was super stoked about that. And that was really the only other major Bronze Age first appearance that I wanted. And so I've now primarily focused on Silver Age. So like I have a Daredevil one, I just got an X-Men one. And so like kind of the two next ones I'm looking to, with the House of Secrets 92. I guess House of Secrets 92 is a Bronze Age book. So I guess
Yeah.
that's the one left in the Bronze Age. But then the other two, you know, I think one of them will definitely happen this year. I don't know if both will, but I would say the next two for me would be Fantastic Four #5, first Doctor Doom, and then Journey into Mystery 83, first Thor. Right. And I'm the kind of guy like I understand what those books go for. And so I'll buy less than 10 books a year. You know what I mean? So like because that's kind of what I'm gonna get geared towards.
So
But yeah,
so
that's
you're
my
okay with buying like one book every couple months and
oh,
then
100%.
but
Yeah,
just
like
getting a cool book instead of like a few smaller books?
100%. Like again, and that's not to say that I'm right. It's just we all know what it is that excites us and what really drives us in this hobby. And for me, I just know it's those really big first appearances. And the saddest, like, for example, the most recent run, I got X-Men 1. Now it's been a couple weeks since I've got it. Like, the level of like excitement, love, enjoyment when I open that box is unparalleled compared to anything else like I could pick up. So it's worth it to me that I don't, while obviously like it's super fun to get something in the mail every week, or right, like I totally understand that gratification, but like the gratification I get like when I open something like the X-Men 1 is exponential that. And so I'm happy to wait months on end to get to that position to then do it again.
Now, would you ever want to like complete a full run of comics? Like,
No, I'm not a run collector. I like I said, like I always tell people like I collect three things. Like if you were to split it up into a pie, I would say 75% of what I'm chasing and what I'm collecting is first appearances. Now that, let's just say I complete kind of my Marvel chase, right? So again, after I said the books this year, then the next year would be like TOS 39, first Iron Man, Avengers 1 would kind of be on my goal list next year. Like I like to think ahead too, so I kind of have a rough idea of like where I'm going to go. Once I finish that, and if I do start going into Golden Age, right, then the percentage would come down, obviously. But I would say, as it stands right now, like 70% of my pie is first appearances. And then the other 25% would be like all-time classic covers, like House of Secrets 92.
yeah.
And then I do go after a few big solo series first issues. Like I have an Iron Man 1, I have a Silver Surfer 1, like those big kind of solar series number ones. I do try to chase a lot of those down too as well. So in terms of like, am I a run collector? No. And a lot of that is not that I wouldn't want to be. I mean, it's definitely not where my passion is, but also like as someone in their 40s that has kids and a family, things like, I don't have the space for short boxes and long boxes full of runs
That's
of
the
comics,
thing.
right? I have one short box of comics. That's it. Like I have less than 50 comics. And that's just how I collect. So
So the way I look at it is exactly the same as yours. So I have the complete run of GI Joe, and then the only things left are Turtles and X-Men. But like after I'm done those runs, it's like, do I really want to get more runs of like key Marvel books and then be the guy who has like a whole like comic room where it's just white boxes, but you have no room to display your books?
yeah.
That's like one of my fears, where it's like I'll discover too many cool things and then it's like, where does it end, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, and I think too, like, let's just say I had X-Men 2 through 200, right? And someone came to me and said, Rohan, I will trade you X-Men 1 for the entire run. I would make that trade in a heartbeat, right? Obviously, like, I would, look to see that we had some, like, it wouldn't be like I had all high grade 2 through 200 and this was like a low grade, it would definitely be closer to that. But like, a choice like that, like I would happily always take a pie. And that's actually what I've done, right? Like when I started collecting, again, I didn't know what it is that I really like. So, your eyes are wide. I picked up some modern stuff. I picked up some vintage stuff. And I was like, oh, I can never afford this. And then I was like, I kind of came to this realization, like if I just stop buying something every week, spending X amount of dollars every month, like I can just pile that up and then use that. And so what I did is I took a lot of those books and I either directly traded for bigger keys or I sold them and then use that money to put into something else. So,
Oh, I do that all the time.
yeah.
You know, when you're in university, you kind of have to just like kind of stay focused because you got the tuition to pay, and then comics come second.
Yeah.
So the way I did it is, when I wanted to buy my Turtles 1, I had a Daredevil 168 signed by Frank Miller, and it was a 9.6 ish. I think it was a 9.4 actually. But I traded that for my Turtles 1 and then cash on top.
Yeah.
And then I looked a few weeks later, and the price of that book just plummeted because Elektra didn't appear in some sort of Marvel series. But
Nice.
do you have This is turning into me interviewing you. Do you have one book you refuse to never sell?
Oh, I always talk about like again, never say never. Again, I think as a collector, your mind evolves, right? Just like I evolved into what I'm collecting now, and I used what I had to get where I'm at now, and I still do it today. And so, but I do think there are definitely some books like, for example, like the X-Men one I got, like the X-Men to me, or even Fantastic Four 48, right? Silver Surfer is my favorite character, as a lot of people know, and Fantastic 48 is his first appearance. I have both of those books, right? Would My thought is that as long as I have a collection of comics, those comics as that issue will always be a part of my collection. That does not mean the one I have is going to be the one that is there forever, right? Because
Yeah. Oh,
like my FF48 is a fairly low grade. My X-Men, it's raw and it's fairly low grade. Like I definitely want to upgrade that in the future, right? My X-Men 1 is a 1.5. I think it presents beautifully and I could not be happier with it at the moment. But does that mean I won't upgrade it in the future? Very well likely I could. Very well likely I stick with it. Like I you don't know. So in my mind, I think like those books and a couple others. Like I'm a big Wolverine fan, so like in my opinion, I'll always have a Hulk 181. Right? It may not be the one I have now, but it is one that I intend to always have in my collection.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
Get because the reason why I say that is I only have one book. If I were to be forced to sell my whole collection just to make, let's say, I have to pay tuition, there's only one book that I wouldn't sell.
Oh yeah. What is that?
Here, let me grab it out. And it's my error copy of TMNT4.
What makes it again? What is the error on that one again?
So I have thankfully. Now you
Yeah,
might
both.
think I have two, but one says Tales of the TMNT, and then this one just says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the error. So what happened was is issue 4, which is that classic NES cover, got wrongfully printed. Or it like got misprinted because Tales and issue number 4, the second printing, came out at the exact same time. And so what happened was they messed up the like printing on it, and they sent all of the error copies up to Canada. So in Canada, we have like an abundance of these.
And what's the value gap like difference between like the regular and the error?
The error, I think. Well, I don't want to. I'll just say how much I paid for mine. I paid $500 for mine, and then I paid $100 for my regular copy.
Got it. Got it. Now,
So yeah, it's like I don't know what the multiplier would be. I think it would be
yeah.
like 5 times the value, but that could also be wrong.
Yeah. Now, do you have the error copy of 3?
So I've talked to who is it? His name's Silver Age Grail Hunter
Oh yeah.
on Instagram. He has 2 copies. And I was sitting there one night, I was talking to him because we both love turtles. And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is my second copy." I was like thinking to myself, I was like, how much does that go for? Can I potentially buy it? But it's much more expensive than the error copy I have. There's only 1,000 of the error copy issue 4, and there's 500 of the error copy issue 3. So it's like it just goes down and down and down.
Yeah. You mentioned you did have a 1, but which printing do you have of TMNT 1?
I have a third print.
Now, do you have aspirations to get to a first, or are you good with the third?
Um, the only difference between a second and a third is the T, where it's
Well, I
just a
mean,
little.
that's the same on the first and the second both have the same T. Yeah.
The one has a it like an ad insert for gobbledygook,
Gobbledygook. Yeah.
and every time I think about it, it's like, man, that would be cool to own, to have the gobbledygook insert, but I don't want to pay that much for a comic, to be honest.
Yeah,
Not, at
no,
least not now.
yeah, no, for sure. But that's what I said, like aspirations in the future. Again, I totally get you, right? Like if you were really to just put a first pretty, a second pretty, and a third pretty next, side by side, right? Most people aren't even going to notice the difference, right? But me as a collector know it. It's just like I always know that there's a better one out there, right? It's and not to
Yeah,
mention like when you talk about print runs, right? First printing's 3,000 copies, second printing 6,000, and then the third printing is 36,000, right? So you have some big jumps, and so like to be a part of that like first printing club would be just a special thing to say. So
I did think I've given like a little bit of thought to this of like where would if I was because I'm going to school for accounting.
mhm.
So if I get my big boy accounting job, what would be the first comic I would buy? I actually said it would be like a 9.8 Raphael #1
Yeah,
as like my
nice.
first big boy book because I that's my favorite comic of all time.
Is it
Just
because you're a
like
Casey Jones fan, or what? Why is
it's
that?
because I'm a Raphael fan.
Yeah. Okay.
Like he's my favorite turtle. I relate to him. We both get mad
I was gonna say, are
easily.
you a hothead here?
Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, Raphael #1, or I would love to own a piece of original art from the
Oh,
Mirage run.
that would be. Have you? I've never actually even seen any for sale personally. That doesn't mean I haven't really looked for it, but I've never actually seen any. Have you?
So they own all of their art. So if you did the art for the issue, you got to keep it and it was yours. So there Kevin Eastman has I don't know if he sold all of issue 1, but I know he sold Raphael 1 pages. Peter Laird still has all his issues, and then every independent artist pretty much has all their issues.
Hmm.
So it's like to get Turtles art is like you
That'd be a
basically have to wait for them to like put it out
die.
there. And then
Yeah.
it's going to be a complete book of Turtles art. So the cover, the and then all the pages.
Have you? I mean, that would just be something truly special, right? Like that's like ultimate grail type stuff. Have you ever seen? So we interviewed on the show Dinesh Shamdasani. He's the head of now Bad Idea. He formerly rebought Valiant, but anyways, he's got a massive comic book collection, and then just
And
like
he's got the
he's got one of the two copies of
yeah.
the original proof. Like, I mean, that's crazy.
I like the more I look at it, it's like that book looks pretty gross.
Oh, it looks like garbage.
And but to think that book is the most expensive Turtles comic ever, it's like, wow.
And it's crazy. We asked him like how he got it. He's just like, oh, I just bought it was on I can't remember what platform it was on, but it was only a couple $1,000s. Like again,
Oh,
a couple $1,000s is obviously very expensive for a book, but when we're talking about that book, like that book now would go for six figures probably.
well, we gotta see how much it can go for.
I mean,
It's
a first printing 9.8 is a six-figure book, right? And there are 30 something 9.8s, right? And so if there are two proofs, I mean, that tells me that should be a six-figure book. Again, who knows? It's not come up for sale anytime recently, but my logic would say it is.
wow. He has a cool collection. Because I being like kind of younger, I listened to a lot of rap. So like
Yeah,
MF
when he was
Doom.
on
He had when he did the interview with 2 Chains,
yeah,
and he's like,
exactly.
"Man, is this the first appearance of Wolverine? Can I buy it right now?" And he's like, "No."
What's funny is that when we interviewed him, he was telling us for that Two Chains interview that they were like talking to him about what to bring. And one of the books he has is Action Comics #1, which is the GOAT comic book, right? There is no more
Yeah.
book more valuable. But they're like, no, don't bring that because Superman is not cool. Uh, but they did have him bring Tech 27, obviously the first Batman, and a kind of like Captain America one. I mean, he was definitely showing off some just monsters. But yeah, his collection is unreal.
I would love like there's a lot of people who's like, "Can I just come take a look at your collection?
Oh
Like
yeah,
I don't even
100%.
have to buy anything. Can I just look around, see what I
100%.
find?"
I don't know if I said that to him on the episode or maybe it was after when we were off air. I was like, I would just want to come over and just like peruse, take some pictures with some of these books.
Because he has that original art for like Amazing Spider-Man 300.
300. He has the original art for X-Men 266 cover, the Gambit cover that you read. He's got a lot of original art as well. Yeah, some just major pieces.
That Todd McFarlane run, that's a. I don't like any of the writing in that series, but 316. If it's like a race between Raphael 1 and like 316, it's like as my favorite comics of all time. 316. If I could ever look at that original art, that would be cool.
I've never seen the original art for that, but that is something. Yeah, that I agree. People always, when it comes to like Todd McFarlane Spider-Man covers, and they always talk about 300. I am with you. I think 316 is far superior, and I'd even put like 311, 313 better than 300.
Oh,
obviously,
yeah.
300 obviously has that iconic pose, but otherwise it's a very basic cover.
It's just Spider-Man, like
yeah,
doing
and
his
then like
little leg
the 300 printed out, which is cool. It's a cool cover, and it's a great book. But like 316, that cover is phenomenal. And I will also say, like, and I've mentioned this several times too before, like, I am a much bigger fan of that version of Venom before Venom got the like long slobbery tongue. I like the cleaner.
Yeah,
kind
he
of
looks
version.
cool that way.
Yeah.
I think Venom is a cooler villain than he is like an anti-hero.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
Because how often do you get a cool villain and then he stays a villain and he's like one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you just make him a hero and all of a sudden he's like the killer good guy.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it because his popularity is so high, but I am 100% with you. I much prefer supervillain Venom than anti-hero Venom.
Oh, villain Venom. There's in that issue, I think it's the issue after 317 where Spider-Man's all tangled up in the webs.
Yeah.
Well, there's this comic called Cosmic Ghost Rider Kills the Marvel Universe. And in that comic, Spider-Man and Venom strip down to their underwear and they fight on a beach.
Okay.
In 317, I'm serious. It's either 317 or it's somewhere later in the Spider-Man run, but they do that. And Cosmic Ghost Rider goes, "Are you guys hearing yourselves right now? Do you guys see what you're doing?" So that's it's probably like my favorite Spider-Man story of all time. Just because they strip down to their underwear and brawl on the beach.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
But yeah. But 316 Mark Jewelers, Manu sold one at DaveNgerCon, and I
mean, he's regularly collecting those, no doubt.
He's got 2 9/8s.
Yeah.
I wish I could own a 9/8 of that. Mark Jewelers insert. That would be a cool book to
Well,
own.
what's funny about that is he had a 9/8 for a long time, but it was an off-white page.
It was the page quality.
And so he's like, I got to get the white page. Yeah, and now he has 2. Because actually, he was one of our first interviews. And on that episode, he showed the off-white one. He's like, so I'm still driving for that, white pager on this one. So, but yeah, I mean, that's his lane, man. I was actually talking to him this week. And we were just talking about that exact thing. Like he just loves he's got his niche and he is grooving in it, man.
But like, do you think any like before Manu started like 9/8ing those like 90s Venom books or like finding the Mark Jewelers variants, do you think anybody would have cared about them before? Because like he made like a whole new like little circle of Mark Jewelers 9/8 collecting.
With me only coming back into the hobby in 2022, I don't know, because when I came in, I mean, Manu was actually one of the first guys I started talking to as like a friend, because I bought an ASM 361 from him. It's actually still to this day the only thing I've ever bought from him, and it was like one of the first books I bought from Instagram. But he and I became friends since then. We talk often, and I know he is definitely responsible for a lot of that. But again, when I came in, his presence was already a known quantity. So
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea what the market was for those types of books prior to him. I have no idea. Obviously, it's very obvious he's a huge contributor to the passion for those now. But again, I don't know what the current state was prior to.
I think it's so cool though, like, because what it is, it's like you look at those Bagley books of Spider-Man, like Spider-Man Bagley books, and you can get them $4, eBay, $1 here and there, and it's like they're cheap. But like when he goes around and flips it for like $200, it's like there's that potential, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where
Yeah, I
it's like
mean, he's like like I said, he's got his niche and he is killing it in it. Like he's got that
it's cool.
eye, and I mean, yeah, he is just an expert at it. I will say, not only would it be that kind of Mark Jeweler newsstand, like I would also say he's probably also the biggest contributor, if not the biggest, of the Wizard One affinity as
Yeah,
well.
I didn't. I just like I didn't know that Wizard had so many variants of the first issue, like
You mean
San
like
Diego
between like
Comic
the
Con.
direct, the San Diego, and the
Yeah,
yeah, nor did I. I absolutely remember the Wizard One cover as a child, but I would have no idea that there was a newsstand and a San Diego Comic Con and any of that.
you know, when I first started collecting, I saw a Wizard one sitting on, I can't remember which shop it was, but it was on the like where the till was.
Hmm.
And I looked at it, I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, this is like a comic magazine from 1990. It's the first issue of it." I was like, "How much is it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's only $10." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And then I paid, left, and I didn't buy it. I could have had a Wizard one for $10, and it just
Yeah, I
didn't
mean,
pan out.
growing up in the '90s, like Wizards were big. Like we would collect it because it was just fun. Like that's what the prices were in for the books, and they had just like cool things. Like I don't remember which issue it was, but Wizard did the 10 most powerful characters in both Marvel and DC combined, minus gods and cosmic characters, or like the cosmic gods. And so, like, and what was really special about it was number one was Silver Surfer, and number two was Superman. And so Silver Surfer was my favorite character, and my brother's all-time favorite character is Superman. And so, like, I always remember that fact. And obviously, like, that list in general was cool. Like, Hulk was on it, and a number of other, like, it's a cool. That's a very distinct memory for me. So, Wizard always has a special place in my kind of bank of memories growing up.
Uh, I wish, you know, I don't know how to use PayPal. Maybe I should have grew up in the 90s, bought all those books, then I'd actually understand how to use the PayPal then.
Again, you said you're gonna be an accountant. You're gonna understand the complexities of tax law. I have full faith you will be able to decipher how to use PayPal if you try.
I'll just wait till I'm 55 and get my grandkids to help me with it.
Wait, so if you buy from West Coast Dave, how do you pay him?
I've never bought anything from him.
Oh, okay.
I would love to buy something, but it's just the shipping. I'll watch all his videos, I'll support his channel. It's just, you know, when you're spending $40
I get yeah, we
potentially on
100%.
shipping,
Mhm,
it's like I could have bought so many comic books from just like a local shop
mhm.
for like the same price. So it's like, you know, I'll always watch his videos. I'm happy to run his Discord. I love his channel. Just it's too expensive. That's all it is.
Well, see, what you need to do maybe is when you buy some books, have them just hold on to them, and then one of these days maybe you make a trip to the U.S. and you pick them up, and then you can meet them. And
Well, he's in Seattle,
yeah, he's actually 20 minutes from me. I've met him a number of
and
times.
it's like he drove up to BC, so it's like BC's like 10-hour drive. We can meet halfway, hunt comics the whole day, and then I buy the books from him.
Yeah, because actually I think he was just in Canada. I think because he had a
Yeah.
video on it. Yeah.
Oh, those videos are good. I think my favorite video is when he got like he met this guy at like a garage sale and he tried to grab the Hulk 4 out of his hand. That was an awesome video.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to come back. You had said you're chasing down a lot of the Disney stuff now. Where does that love come from?
So my dad had X-Men. He had a little bit of Hulk, and then there was a third book, Gladstone Uncle Scrooge reprints. And it wasn't until I started watching like kayfabe like pretty religiously where I like found out about the art and like how the how Carl Barks was like happy to like work for Disney and own none of the characters just to be a working man. And I thought that was just like a really cool take on it. And I just they're all about capitalism as well.
The
So
Disney books are?
yeah, so Uncle Scrooge is usually going to like some island with a tribe on it because he knows there's gold on it, and he like always causes like I think there's one called like Lava Island or something. I can't remember the exact book, but I have the Gladstone reprint of it. And he meets this tribe, and then a volcano starts to erupt, and all the tribes like, "We'll help you get out of here," and they like swing on vines. It's very cartoony. Then Uncle Scrooge and all the ducks leave the tribe behind. And then Uncle Scrooge says, I'll be back just with mining equipment because there's gold on the island."
Oh, all right.
And I just like the Disney books. Just they're very they're not campy like some of the Golden Age books, and they're relatively cheap and they're entertaining.
Ah, all right. So like
Yeah.
what is it that you're hunting down in that realm?
Um there's definitely first Carl Barks on Uncle Scrooge. I don't know the number, but I know the cover. It's like Uncle Scrooge on a boat, and it's like a gold coin river.
Is
My
that I
birth
mean that's got to be an expensive book or no?
actually it's like 300 for a Golden Age Disney book. It's like $350 Canadian for
Oh,
like a 3.0 copy.
oh, that's not bad at all.
So it's pretty cheap. And then the rest of the books, like there's an event not that long ago where they like rented out a hotel um hall, and it was all $2 books, and I think I got like 150 Uncle Scrooge books
Oh wow.
just from that run because nobody was grabbing them, so I just take a copy. My buddy Ari, he was there with me. I was like, "You want one of these?" He's like, "Sure, why not? I'll take one." And so we're pulling out books after book after book.
Oh, there you go.
So I think I have like 3/4 of a long box of Uncle Scrooge comics.
Yeah,
And
so
I
you got a few long boxes there then at the house.
I I have a few right here, just like the ones just like this is my Joe run right here. And then these are some of my uncle's comics back here. The rest I just keep in my room.
Got it.
Yeah. But
Got it.
as far as like I don't really like Uncle Scrooge isn't like the ultimate like run I would love to have. It would definitely be X-Men. I would love to get Giant Size X-Men #1.
Well, you could use some of those boxes theoretically to get yourself there.
The X-Men 94 was way too good, and now the price is just back up, and it's like
X-Men
crap.
97, you mean?
Yeah, X-Men 97, sorry. X-Men 94 is like the first team appearance. I get the numbers mixed
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes.
Did you so today is did you watch the finale yet?
No, I was gonna watch it right after this.
Okay, yeah, I watched it earlier today. Oh man.
I
That I
got
mean, that show has just been phenomenal. I mean, like in my opinion, I mean, obviously live action, if I had to pick, right, like the Infinity Saga is probably, because of its live action. But like in my opinion, like this may be the best product Marvel has made on screen. Like I think it's been fantastic.
it's too good.
Yeah.
And I remember when they first like launched Disney Plus, they were gonna make like a Disney Plus series every month, and then it just flopped, and they're like, "Huh, we might as well make something good now." And then they're like, "Announce X-Men 97 quickly."
Yeah, but the thing is like the reason why I think those shows flopped is because they never actually invested in them, in the sense that there was never any stakes. It was always some like tertiary character with some boring, unimportant storyline that had no relevance. And I'm not saying that like it needs to tie into like the movie storylines or anything like that. It's just like, give me what I want to see on screen. You know what I'm saying? Like characters I care about, and I want them to have like high stakes, like you see on the movie. Like if you're gonna make it like for example, like if you want to know what a Marvel live action television show should be, Netflix Daredevil season 1
or Punisher.
Is everything I want in a television show of a Marvel character. Like those are phenomenal. And like, I mean, they were just like the shows I thought were just so boring and yeah, not for me.
On the topic of like a dark and gritty show, I know you know how they announced Last Ronin? I'm kind of scared for like Paramount to make it, because
Oh,
I'm afraid that it's gonna flop and then it's like nobody likes the book anymore.
yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like I'm a huge Transformers fan, right? Growing up, I loved the Transformers cartoon. Transformers movie gets announced. I actually still think Transformer 1 is phenomenal. It's such a fun movie. But from there 2 and on up, complete, utter garbage.
There's not been a good
no,
Transformers movie
it's some
ever,
of the
except for the
worst.
first one.
It's some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, and it just pisses me off how bad it is because they've just taken something I loved. I mean, even G.I. Joe for that matter. The G.I. Joe live action movies, complete garbage. And
Well, I don't think it's. I think they had good actors for those movies and they had good plots. It's Michael Bay as a director.
oh yeah, and
He
it's like,
does not make good movies.
no, he does not. I mean, it's the same thing with what DC did with Zack Snyder. Like that. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
that guy's garbage.
Okay, let's calm down there. You don't like his movies?
No, the Zack Snyder verse, terrible, terrible.
I don't
So
know. He's made some real like 300,
yeah, I know he
Watchmen.
did 300, and I know he did Watchmen, but like
You're
he's
talking about the
the
Snyderverse.
Snyderverse, right? The Justice League and Superman, Batman versus Superman is one of the worst movies made. It's
Yeah,
so bad.
that movie sucked.
I mean, they're all, and then like no, there's, in my opinion, none of them ever, and like I even just stopped watching them because they're so bad.
But
And then
I gotta respect him though, because he negotiated. I was watching him on Joe Rogan. For every movie he makes like a version for the studio, and then he gets to make the movie his way after.
I I have nothing against Zack Snyder. Like he's doing what he wants to do, and that's something that's respectable, right? He's doing it
Yeah,
how he wants to do it. It's just not what I want to see for Batman and Superman, characters I grew up with, characters I love.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because the way those characters are made is like they have like thousands of stories, and it's like what he did is he took the characters and he just took the characters.
Well, I
He
mean, like
didn't take any of the values and stuff like
a
that
perfect
with
example is like Superman. Henry Cavill was born to play Superman on screen. Like that's just a
exactly.
simple fact. But the character they wrote was not Superman. It was their own like, and I think they got caught up with like the Dark Knight trilogy had just ended and those were phenomenal, right? And the best trilogy in comic books I'd probably say on the screen. And they're like, "Oh, we need to make Superman edgy and dark and gritty." It's like that's not Superman. And that's what they tried to give us and it just didn't work in my opinion. And so,
Well, in my head, like Superman's kind of like the poster boy of like patriotism. Not to
no, that's not in your head. That is what he is.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, he
like
is truth, justice, and the American way is Superman.
he's kind of like a Boy Scout.
He is the perfect embodiment of someone, right? Like, he doesn't have to make the choice of like this or the lesser. Like, he's Superman. He can always make both choices and the right choices, and he always like he's infallible. Like Like that is Superman.
I would love to see a good Superman movie. Not that
Yeah,
Man of Steel was like awful, but like
Man of Steel
I want
wasn't
to
awful, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be.
I want to see like a like almost like a Christopher Reeves Superman, but
No,
like
exactly.
today.
Superman 1, obviously, if you're someone that's, born younger like you were and you watch it today, it may not, have that same, because it was made in the 70s. But that movie is excellent. And that is Superman, right?
Exactly.
And, I hope James Gunn with the new, you know, whatever they call it, the Gunn universe, I hope that's where he goes back to.
Well, they have like they originally casted Henry Cavill as Superman in the universe, didn't they? And then they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to drop you."
No, I think I think once James Gunn came on board, I think Cavill was out.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
poor guy.
I,
But
I I think before they hired, because like, see, Cavill made that cameo in Black Adam. I didn't even watch Black Adam. Like I was done with the Snyderverse by then,
it
but I
was
know he had a
hard.
cameo at the end, and I think that was before Gunn was hired. So I think that in their minds, like he would continue, but then they hired Gunn, and I agree. Like they need to give him complete carte blanche, right? Like you map it out and you go. Like we're not going to give you guidelines or rules. Like you do it your way and go. And that's the way it should be done. I just hope that it matches up with what these characters are.
I agree. I'm hoping that those movies are good. Because
Yeah.
honestly, I'm kind of Marvel ended with Endgame, and the rest of the Marvel movies since, it's like where are we building to? Because now it was Kang, but like Kang's not really like a big
Yeah, I
villain.
mean, I think the thing, like, so I will say, post Endgame, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
that was good.
That was excellent. But yes, otherwise subpar. And like people say, oh, it's superhero fatigue. I don't actually agree with that. I think it was just bad writing. And also on top of that, like it's just there wasn't products and characters that we cared about. Like, I'm sorry, like the movies that they focused on post Endgame, it's just not the meat and potatoes of Marvel, right? Like, and people should say superhero fatigue, but like, look at the trailer for Deadpool versus Wolverine and how much hype it has. It was like the most
Uh-huh.
watched trailer in like a amount of time in history. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that is giving the people what they want, right? Or X-Men 97. Like, it's super well done. And guess what? It's a home run, right? Because you did it right. Like, that's been the issue, is just they put a crap product out there and not what people cared about. That's what was causing the superhero fatigue, in my opinion. Not that people were just tired. Like, I guarantee you, if they were making, again, I also do think it's not realistic to expect end game level movies every single time, but you could put out quality Marvel movies and people will go if they're well done. If they're written well and they're done right, people will go and they won't get. I mean, I wouldn't get tired of them, and I know I'm not alone in that thought.
I agree. No, they need to make Deadpool and Wolverine on the topic, like, so I'll just put it out there. I hate the comic book market, the
The spec
like the
marketing.
investability, the specking
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I get it if it's fun, but like I would love to have a full like Rob Liefeld New Mutants run. But when the book's going like a zigzag all the time, it's like it's kind of hard to track. Like, can I just buy it now and then not feel afraid to like let it drop?
I mean, yeah, I think in any comic book, you kind of just have to,
Yeah,
you have to buy. I mean, that's why we say, right? Buy what you love. Because the idea is, like, let's just say if I bought Bitcoin, if Bitcoin goes to zero tomorrow, I have nothing, right, from what I put into it. If I buy a comic book and tomorrow the comic book market goes to zero, I still have the
you have a
product
comic.
that I loved, right? And I can still enjoy that. Obviously, it sucks to lose money, right?
Yeah,
But with an item that is as volatile as a comic book, you have to accept that you're going to intake some losses, right? That's just part of the game. That's why you have to buy what it is you love.
Well, when I bought my Turtles one, I don't remember the exact sticker price, but it was like the most I had like put money on to a comic book. Just like last week, if I had waited, I could have gotten like a much, much higher grade Turtles one than what I have currently. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, it's in cases like that where it's like, man, I love the Turtles. I'm just happy to have one.
Totally. And again, you can only gauge in the moment, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to overpay for a Turtles one today, right? As long as you get a good price today, you did good. You did well.
Exactly.
Because the comic's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. You can't control that aspect of it. You can only do your best in the moment.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But end of the day, I'm happy to have one.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's actually pretty cool when like you see like people who are like, "Oh, I bought this New Mutants off the newsstand and I sold it." Like, let's say you kept it in mint condition. You sold the 9.8 and I got a .5 X-Men #1. Like, that's awesome, man. Because you
yeah.
held on to that book for like, I don't know, 30 years,
I mean,
35 years.
timing has a lot to do
Yeah.
with this hobby, right? I mean, 15 years ago, you could buy an AF-15 for $1,500.
That's in 2000, in like right before the housing market crash, people like could buy them for like really absurdly cheap.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
the very first interview, the first interview we did on the show with this guy named Errol, and in those years, he had the foresight to say this book is gonna jump. So he bought AF-15s, and he's even got a picture on his Instagram page. On his bed, he has 7 AF-15s laid out. He used those to then get a 7.0 AF-15. He sold that, and that money is what bought him Superman 1.
wow, that's an
Yeah.
expensive ass book.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking a 6-figure plus book. So, yeah.
Would you ever like want to own like a Batman one?
100%. That would be an absolute grail. But I mean, you know, my I mean, I'll never say never because I mean, you could theoretically you could find one at a garage sale tomorrow, right?
Exactly.
But and again, you never know what avenues or surprises life could bring. And would I want to own one? 100%, 100%. Will it happen? Who knows? Again, I also think one of the things in this hobby is you have to be okay with you can't have it all. And so know your lane. Kind of go collect within your means, and depending on where things go, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. You have to be okay with it not happening if that's the case. But 100%, I would love to own a Batman one.
I've thought to myself, it's like, would I only collect turtles? Because I'm young, so it's like you gotta kind of think about like I buy what I like. Like I love the Hulk. Him and Venom are like my favorite Marvel characters. And it's like, would I ever sell my Turtles run to buy like a Hulk 181? And the answer was no.
The
But
answer
like,
is no today.
yeah. And
Like
then it's like,
you never know what can happen in 10, 15 years. Like our tastes evolve, our preferences
mhm.
evolve, your collecting evolves, like things change.
I'm I'm just happy to have the books I own now.
Exactly. That's the whole point, right? You want to just enjoy your time while you're here with what you're collecting, and that's all that matters, right?
But
Because
where I
again,
was
in 15 years, if you were to like trade in your Ninja Turtles for, let's say, Hulk, that doesn't mean you didn't enjoy the last 15 years or that you made a mistake. You enjoyed that time you had with it. You've moved on to something else that you enjoy, and like it just keeps the hobby fresh.
but I would do want to say, if I let's say I traded my run and I got my Hulk 181, I would be so afraid to flip through that thing and having it like tear a page out that it's like crap. I'm stuck
Yeah,
with this book that I can only look at. I'm so afraid to open those
I mean,
books.
in those cases, right? Like that's why you have digital copies online or
Mhm.
reprints, right? Like again, like we talked about earlier, like I understand grading when it comes to these books that are in that price range because you want to know what you have and you want to keep it safe, right? And it's like if I want to read that book, I can buy a reprint, I can buy an online version. There's free online versions. So
I I actually really like the reprints Marvels and DC are doing. Like they're reprinting just like golden age issues that like you you can't even afford anymore, or like ASM 300 because I finally have like I had a complete Todd McFarlane Spider-Man run for like 2 weeks because I finally got the 300, and then we had movers in our house, and then there's a whole debacle. But let's just say I don't own a 316 anymore.
oh no.
It's a little crappy, but it's actually like awesome how Marvel's like reprinting all of those like big books and stuff now.
Yeah, they have their place for sure. Uh, Mattis, I gotta say that we're kind of on an hour 15 here. We gotta wrap this thing up, but it's been an absolute blast having you on, chatting with you. Thanks for coming on. Real quick, tell people where they can find you, look you up, that kind of thing.
You can find me on IG at Mattis Comics. I post a bit. It's mainly like just an archive. I'll take a book out, flip through it. I just did X-Men 133 and said I didn't understand why it was so expensive. uh, but yeah, it's mainly just an archive. I write a whole spiel. Give me a follow.
Right on. Awesome. Everyone, thanks for listening. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next one. Peace out.